Here's a stunning fact to ponder. In virtually every country in the world, from the US to China to Argentina to Nigeria, Russia, Dubai, everywhere, the majority of classrooms have two things in common. Number one, they look amazingly similar. And number two, they look pretty much the same way they did 100 years ago. Not sure what I'm talking about? Here's what a classroom looked like in 1917. Here's what a classroom looks like in 2017. But if you want to see something even more amazing, just Google the word classroom, followed by any random list of 50 countries, and here's what you'll see. In the US, in Japan, in Nigeria, in Afghanistan, in Russia, in Korea, in Pakistan, in the Middle East, in Eastern Europe, in the Himalayan mountains, in Vietnam, in Iran, in rich countries, in developing countries, in the military, in prison, and in higher ed. Question: how is it that countries that are so radically different in language, race, culture, politics, religion, values, wealth, size, geography, history have classrooms that are so strikingly similar to each other? Why is it that so many of these classrooms are so similar to classrooms from 100 or more years ago? Especially when virtually every other area of human experience has profoundly changed. When we look at these classrooms side by side, what are we seeing that makes these images so recognizably similar, though the teachers and the students are vastly different? You know, the answer is, in these classrooms, we are seeing educators lining students up like widgets on an assembly line and attempting to pour knowledge into their heads. This is astounding. We are well into the new millennium, and educators in virtually every school, school district, school system are talking about 21st century learning. Yet, one foundational thing that could most profoundly transform teaching and learning is still unchanged in so many ways: classrooms around the world. An old adage says, do no harm. Once a doctor knows that a previously accepted treatment for cancer may be doing more harm than good, using or supporting that treatment is no longer acceptable. On the day that a third world dentist discovers that he can fill and cap a rotting tooth, yanking teeth that he knows he can save becomes a harmful breach of professional conduct. I was recently asked a series of very tough questions by one of our team members. If flipped learning is so great, why isn't everyone flipping their classroom? Why are we accepting passive learning in any school when we know that it's not creating self-directed, world-class learners? Why are we casually accepting passive learning when we believe that it's a breach of the most fundamental principles we know about effective instruction? Why are we encouraging or enabling students to avoid owning their learning and setting them up to be ill-prepared for the demands of the future? Why should we allow tradition, ego, school culture, or conflict avoidance to override what is most effective and best for students? Why are we being casual about what any other profession might label malpractice? These questions drove me to reflect deeply on whether I was doing enough to support and advance what I know is what is in the best interests of all kids. The reflection led me to collaborate with our team and draft a list of things that should no longer be acceptable in education anywhere in the world. The list includes delivering, supporting, or enabling purely passive learning. Tacitly accepting passive learning under the guise of being collegial. Teachers owning the learning instead of insisting that the students own it. Teaching in the silo of a classroom, a school, or a school system instead of being a world-class teacher focused on creating world-class learners. Undermining school culture by not being radically candid in pursuit of what's in the best interests of our students. We then turn this list into our professional code of ethics and a manifesto to guide our work going forward. As you expand your flipped learning practice, we hope it's becoming clear to you that focusing on flipped lessons and flipping classrooms, it's not sufficient anymore. Students and teachers in every country deserve to teach and to learn in flipped schools, flipped school districts, even flipped school systems. Is this possible? Well, if it was possible to get classrooms in radically different countries and cultures all around the world to embrace passive learning, then it's possible to spread flipped learning to every classroom worldwide. We invite you to consider the questions we've posed and to ask what you can do to make active learning available to every child. If you're a superintendent, a principal, a tech coach, or a dean, we hope these questions encourage you to think bigger about getting more of your teachers to move from passive to active learning. If you're a teacher who's been thinking about flipping, we hope these questions will motivate you to start flipping this year. If you have flipped a few lessons, we hope this year you'll flip a few more. And if you flipped a few classes, we hope that you'll make the leap and flip them all. Finally, if you flipped your classes for some years, but your peers have not, we hope that you'll think about how to help them, help their students get the active learning experience that you know is possible with flipped learning. But you're not in a position to dictate what other teachers do, you say. I understand. That was my response when that question was posed to me. Then I was reminded that leadership is not about authority or position. It's about commitment to do what you can wherever you are to make change happen. Let's get started.